Jack, welcome to the garden, my place in the heart of Sherwood Forest in North Nottinghamshire. I thought we'd come outside, have a cup of tea, have a bit of a chat, see where it went. Is that okay with you?
That's absolutely fine, Simon. Good to be here.
Have you been writing your memoirs?
To a point, yes. I left the police service 10 years ago, almost to the month, and you know, people of a certain age, they get a bit of pressure from family or friends or whatever to, oh, you must write that down, you must write that down. Well, I'm no different to anybody else. My job might have been different to others, but so was yours, Simon. And yeah, I've been toying with writing my memoirs. I'm sort of anxious about how to sort of pitch it, but I've read others. I've read and seen other police officers' memoirs, and to be honest, I want mine, if I ever get them into print, I want it to be not a chronological story of my career, but aspects of policing that I can relate and talk about and explain that people might be curious about and want to know. Like I want to know what goes on behind the scenes of a radio broadcaster, you know, things that you guess at. You think you know what happens because you've seen stuff on TV or you've read stuff. But what really happens, you know, on those days and at 2 o'clock in the morning on a rain-soaked, blood-soaked footpath, you know, in some city. So, yeah, it's sort of topics really that people will want to relate to.
Chapter 5, Morrell on murder, something like that, yeah? That terrible noise wasn't a window going through, that's the glass collection. So if you pick that up just then, that's the guys from the recycling company coming to pick up all of the bottles. Not just my bottles, I hasten to add. Yeah, sorry, so Chapter 5, Morrell on murder, something along those lines.
Well, yes, I like that. I mean, in fact, one of the notes I've done, I've not actually put it down as murder, but I've put the topic of death, because police officers, whether they like it or not, have to deal with death. Sudden deaths, coroners' inquests, to homicides. So, you know, if you're not, everyone's curious about death, and, you know, that first corpse that you come across in a strange pose or strange situation will remain with you for life. But equally, it's part of the job. And if you don't want to see a corpse ever, then don't join the police service, is my advice.
Because you're going to see a dead body. And more than one.
You'll see them. And in fact, Simon, you see more, and I saw more bodies in my uniform days than I did in major crime and homicide.
Oh, that's interesting.
For the simple reason, you're first on the scene, you're dealing with these things. And secondly, when you're dealing with the aftermath of a homicide, you're relying on experts, forensics, videos. You know, from my role within major crime homicide, I didn't need to be walking around the scene of trampling around the scene of a murder. I was collating, pooling, and dealing with, and we were dealing with the investigation. We didn't need to all be there, living and breathing the awful scene. As I say, I want it to be not just about the gory bits, and because we know that when people apply for a job in any career-based profession, they have this view in their mind's eye. And bear in mind, I was aged just before my 23rd birthday, but I was working with people who joined when they were cadets at 17. You know, these are kids, aren't they? They're teenage kids joining the service that I joined at 22 when I'd lived a bit. But you get this fanciful view of what the job will entail, and that's soon knocked out of you, isn't it? That's knocked out of you within about 3 days, you know, when somebody tells you, forget all that, this is what you're going to be doing. And I've tried to inject a little bit of humour into it as well, which you will know from your radio days, Simon, Very, very important thing, that humour behind the scenes. And I don't mean something that's insensitive or whatever, although some of it can be or could be deemed to be. But it's how people deal with it in any profession, how they deal with stuff within their own sort of speakeasy behind the scenes. And I know things have changed, and I've certainly seen change. I don't think I've changed particularly in my attitude to that kind of behaviour, that sort of practical joke stuff as well. I have a certain stance, but I understand it goes off. I mean, what I've noted down, I'll have to pick up the piece of paper to look at it before I deliver it to you. I've actually prepared a sample multi-choice question, the kind of question you get when you go through a selection process or you go through a promotion process. You must have seen hundreds of them, you know. What do you do if? And I've prepared a couple of those to try and get people to think about what policing's about. Can I fire one at you?
Yeah, for sure. Go for it. I'm not sure how I'll perform, but yeah, my anxiety is rising now slightly. So.
Yeah. Oh, don't feel pressured. But yeah, it might come across a little bit odd, but a lot of these questions were odd in your police promotion examinations, that kind of thing. So, general police duties. Stop and search, always a contentious issue for politicians and the like. You're in charge of the local gangs unit at any town police station. A previously reliable source of information has told you that members of the Estate Holes gang are habitually carrying knives and martial arts offensive weapons. The specific information is that when there are 3 gang members together, they will always be carrying weapons. The Estate Holes gang identify themselves by a small facial tattoo above their right eye. You're on patrol and you see 3 youths together who have the identifying tattoo. They are aged about 12, 10 and 9. Which of the following statements is correct, having regard for the provisions contained in Code A of the Police and Criminal Evidence Act Codes of Practice?
That's the PACE, right?
That's
they call
PACE.
It PACE. Okay.
Okay. 1, you have the power to search all 3 boys as the reliable information relates to gang activity carrying weapons. 2, no such provision exists that relates to searching gang members. Each search must be justified by reasonable suspicion on an individual basis. 3, only the boys aged 12 and 10 can be searched, as those under the age of criminal responsibility cannot be searched. 4, identifying gang members from tattoos is excluded specifically from the Codes of Practice as unreliable. No grounds to search exist here. Have you got the idea?
Okay, I know what you mean. Those answers all have something in them that sounds plausible, but you need good knowledge to filter out the trick ones, right? You need to know your beef. You need to understand PACE.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I think that those scenarios, as fabricated as I made it, they're interesting because as a police officer and probably as a member of the public, you'd expect that those boys are searched for weapons. It's a problem in a lot of estates. So that's the kind of scrutiny that you have to go through to work out what you can do. How about this one? You are on patrol in any town and see a group of 4 teenagers standing in an alleyway between some houses. There's a strong smell of cannabis being smoked. You see one of the group exhaling smoke and then passing what appears to be a joint to another youth. You approach them and realise one of the group is your nephew. What course of action do you take? 1, none, as you cannot be sure that the smell of cannabis is emanating from the group. 2, talk to the group about the legality of and the dangers of smoking cannabis. 3, give them all a clip round the ear. 4, detain them all for the purpose of a search under the Misuse of Drugs Act. 5, take their names and submit an intelligence report. 6, only search the one who gives you the most lip. You've got it, Simon, yeah?
Yeah, I've got it. And we all know what we'd like to do, particularly to my nephew. That's one from the Life on Mars College of Policing, isn't it?
It is. So there's a few little scenarios there that, depending on who's listening, will think, oh, that one resonates with me. But these scenarios do play out on the streets where officers walk into those kind of situations.
You always strike me as a very unassuming character. Don't take that the wrong way, because it probably means that you're a really good cop. Do you think you were a good cop?
Right. The problem is that despite me putting 30 years of my life into policing, I've come out of it. I don't actually know what a good cop is.
You'll have to explain that in some more detail for me, because there must be somewhere.
Well,
there must be a definition of a good cop somewhere.
I don't think you can define what a good cop is. The role is so diverse, and there's such a broad spread of responsibility that it needs all sorts of people to make it function. You know, this isn't RoboCop we're talking about. We're talking about individuals, some of them very young. As I say, some were 17, had joined at 17 when I was there, joining a service and joining an organisation with different personalities and different attitudes. So, just like journalism, Simon, the police family was full of different people, characters, personalities. You may think you know what would make a good cop, but that can change once you've signed up to do it. You know, you'll learn to adapt to the facets of the job that you weren't actually prepared for.
The common thread with your work in policing and my work in journalism, particularly in daily news, is that no 2 days are the same. I think that's the key to it. You start that shift and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel an affinity with police officers and law enforcement. You go into work and you've no idea what's going to hit you. It might be, we never use the Q word, it might be quiet, right? But nobody ever says, oh, it's quiet today. And I think that's the same in a police station as it is in a newsroom, isn't it?
Absolutely right.
Don't tempt fate. Don't say it's quiet.
That's exactly right. And I guess that was it Shakespeare who said all the world's a stage or something like that. And these scenarios that happen on the streets and in society are played out every day, and you don't know when they're going to come knocking on your door. Police officers interact with the public on a daily basis, and the whole thing's like it's like a gritty stage show out there, but it's a real life drama. And the cops, they're the paid actors because it's their living, it's their responsibility, and they're getting paid at the end of the month to do it. But the public, who are they? They're just the extras, aren't they? Who drift in and out of the scenes and cause chaos, basically, or cause entertainment on that stage.
Voices off, yes.
Yeah.
People dancing around while you're trying to record a piece to camera
Yeah.
outside court. That's a classic, isn't it?
Well,
You've
that's
seen
it.
that
I mean,
before, yeah.
I mean, think of those vox pop. Is it vox pops they call them?
That's
where
right.
you
Yes,
journalists
the people speak, vox populi. Yeah.
go out with a camera and a microphone and doorstep people on the street, basically, and you must get some absolute hilarious moments.
Yeah, the ones that you see on the television or you hear on the radio are the ones that have been very carefully selected, both editorially and also for the sense that people are making. Yeah, I could wax lyrical about that. But hey, this is your strand, this is your show, okay? So we're talking about policing. You can interrogate me on another occasion. I like the way you're turning the tables, though. You're deflecting attention from you and putting it onto me. That's got to be an interrogative technique, hasn't it?
I'm getting you to
Detective
talk,
Sergeant.
you see. I'm getting you to relax and thinking, you're off your guard, Simon.
And now
Yeah.
I'm going to say something that will incriminate myself. He's done this before, He's done it before, obviously. Okay.
But, yeah, policing. So the scenes, acting out and policing can be spontaneous. Sometimes they're planned, where you've done that 6 o'clock lock, that dawn raid, where it's all been planned and rehearsed. But every day of policing has comedy, farce, tragedy, and violence. And if you're lucky, some incredible choreography.
I suppose that most people don't think they're made of that sterner stuff, the quality that's essential to be a police officer, to go into work, to not know what you're going to face. Like the detectives who ended up opening the suitcases that had been left by Jostin Mosquera on the Clifton Suspension Bridge in Bristol. A lot of people don't want to do that. They don't have it in them, do they?
Well, I think they do. It's just a case of it coming out. I think we're all made of sterner stuff. It's just that some of us rarely have it tested. Hence, we're unsure whether we're made of it. But I think we are. You could be a placid individual who hates confrontation, but if you join the police, you'll soon learn when to assert yourself and when to show aggression. I mean, you'll deal with every type of personality in every type of situation. And you'll deal with people in society who struggle to manage their lives. And sometimes these people need coaxing and empowering to make the right decisions.
Is that where the training comes in? I suppose training is incredibly important, isn't it? To be able to behave in a way which is, well, because you have legal powers as a police officer, you have to be able to exercise those powers responsibly and correctly.
And it's problem solving, isn't it? I mean, those people will be, let me say, a drain on resources. They will be getting more than their fair share of interaction with public services and the police. And
Are these the people that you sometimes call frequent flyers? Is that an expression that you use? I've heard it used, but I don't know if it's appropriate or approved.
I've not used that term. Maybe that's a Met term or a Yorkshire term you got from your time up there, Simon. But in all my service, Simon, I can only remember one individual who resigned because he couldn't deal with the aggro, with the confrontation.
What about the thugs in policing? The people who like to dish it out, the people who go in there and abuse power? I'm thinking maybe about Wayne Couzens, that kind of personality.
Right. Okay. Well, let's park Wayne Couzens, if you may. You're putting
he
me.
is parked at the moment at His Majesty's pleasure. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because I don't actually regard him as a police officer. He was he had the warrant card, okay, but he was an armed security officer, and I'm not taking that away from it. But I don't personally regard him as a police officer colleague because I don't think he's met an angry man in his life.
Okay.
Let me put it that way. That's
okay.
But policing is adversarial, and officers do have to confront anger and violence on a daily basis sometimes, and that's before they even leave the office.
Same
you like that one?
Same in journalism. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, precisely. If you can deal with your colleagues on a bad day, you can deal with pretty much anyone. Yeah.
But as you say, Simon, those who like to dish it out, some of them may have a mildly psychopathic personality disorder. They may enjoy controlling people and seeing them suffer. And I have worked with those individuals because some officers will have these personalities, but they too need to adapt. They need to rein it in, and they need to realise that this only works in a few situations. In most scenarios in policing, you'll achieve far more by showing some empathy and compassion.
I remember talking to Dean And, the forensic psychologist, after he'd given a very interesting presentation in Nottingham back in May of this year. And I said, I worked for the BBC for 22 years, And he said, you must have met a few psychopaths then.
There you go. They are amongst us, Simon.
They walk among us, yeah. I rest my case, yes.
Yeah.
I won't tell you what I replied to that, but yeah. Okay.
But maybe I need to go back to your original question, Simon. Was I a good cop? That seems what you want me to answer. If I was a good cop, who should I thank for being honoured with that title? My parents, my school teachers, previous employers, my mates? Because I had no connection to the police service before I joined. In fact, the only police officer I knew was the father of a good mate of mine at school. None of my family had ever been police officers, although I probably should add that none were career criminals either.
So what did make you fill in the application form? It seems like it came right out of left field, that one.
Yeah, and I think it probably helps if there's any younger people that listen to this and are toying with the idea and curious about policing. Well, I mean, for me, I dropped out of A-levels. I think I lasted about 3 months, and I walked into what my mother thought was potentially a great career in banking. And I stuck at it for 3 years, but it never stimulated me. And then I spent a year in what people would now call the gig economy. I did various jobs, hours, part-time, bar work, security work. I even teamed up with a friend and we bought some sportswear and sold it on market stalls for a couple of days a week. I even had a friend in the wholesale market, and I got myself around selling groceries door to door on an estate. You know, I was willing to try anything, try things, and I was willing to meet the public.
That's a very good point. And I would say the ability to talk to people is a thread that's running through all of this. In fact, maybe more than that, the significant fact here is that you can listen to people. That's the big thing, isn't it? You've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you use them in that proportion. Well, you do now. Maybe not back when you were 17 or 18, but yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think you.
Is that a fair reflection?
Yeah, you've hit it on the head there. I think for me personally, whether it made me a good cop or not, was I'm interested in people, in wherever they're coming from, whatever their circumstances. I'm genuinely interested in them. I know it sounds a bit like, but you know, I enjoy talking to them. I enjoy meeting them and learning their experience. I mean, going on from that, by the summer of 1985, which is on its anniversary, isn't it? Live Aid, wasn't it, with Bob Geldof and all that was going off. I even joined the Territorial Army at the Royal Corps of Transport in Grantham, Lincolnshire. And I'd got to know one of the officers there, and he suggested I join them, and I'd get myself a heavy goods driving license. So I went through that as well. I was willing to try lots of things, and I suppose that boot camp sort of training, military training, gave me that little maybe I like something a little bit more disciplined and uniform.
You were very lucky. I have a friend who has passed now, sadly, Big Dave. And Big Dave was of an age when he had to do national service, had to do military service. And he thought, I'll go along to the Army recruiting office and I will apply to join the logistics corps and learn to drive an HGV. And then when I come out after 2 years, I'll be a lorry driver. And he walked straight in. He was 6'7", and he said, right, Coldstream Guards. And he spent the rest of his career with the royal family, standing outside Buckingham Palace, wearing a bearskin, and he could tell quite a few tales. Amazing guy.
Well, this is exactly it, because you go into an organisation with an idea in your mind, but where your career then goes, it depends on a number of factors. I didn't join policing to be a detective, but I think my skills and my natural way of dealing with people it suited me, and fortunately the organisation maybe recognised that, and I had a great career as a detective.
You can join now, can't you, as a graduate trainee CID officer, can't you? Go in via that route, but that means you don't have the experience of being in uniform and being on the beat.
No, you don't.
Do you think you lose something?
Yeah, and I have got reservations with that, Simon, for the simple reason that if somebody said, okay, there's 3 jobs here. One is to put on a uniform, work shifts, get spat at, assaulted, shouted at on a daily basis, get run ragged, chasing incidents and crime, or you can join and be a detective where you'll wear a suit and you will deal with major crime. What are people going to go for? Most people are going to go for what they would think is the more or the less problematic scenario, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would think.
Yeah. And then, and I'm thinking of some footage I saw recently with Detective Chief Inspector Ollie Stride from the Met standing outside Woolwich Crown Court after Mosquera was found guilty of those hideous murders in Hammersmith, the 2 men he murdered and then cut up and put into suitcases. And Ollie Stride is standing outside of the court and he's wearing a suit and a tie, but I would imagine that he doesn't wear a suit and a tie every day of the week, does he? Because there will be part of that job, and you would have found there would be part of that job that did involve, as a detective, being in some pretty sketchy situations, being spat at, being shouted at, having abuse hurled at you, and having to deal with it. Am I right?
You are. I mean, for me, I went in with a pretty open mind. I felt that policing was going to be the thing for me, but I didn't know where it would take me, and I'd got those skills and experiences in the locker. And I guess I thought I was drifting and needed to choose a specific career. So I wrote that letter off to my local constabulary, as they were called then. And within 3 months, I was a police constable. I'd sworn allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II to keep the Queen's peace.
Did policing change you as a person? Did it alter your personality?
No, it didn't alter my personality, but I think it changed me to a point, but to the same point that any profession or career or life changes you as you get older. You know, we're always learning, aren't we? And we're always finding the best way to live. I mentioned earlier about adapting and conforming to the expectations of policing, and it doesn't mean that individuals must lose their personality. In fact, my character, you talk about my unassuming and calm style, but there's a strong element of non-conformism in my character as well. I wouldn't say I'm rebellious, but I do like to challenge things. To be honest, I challenge things when they become stale or banal. I get not bored, but I want to seek something different and keep challenging. There was actually a sentence in my initial training report that questioned whether I could easily conform to discipline. So I think working for any organisation changes you to a point.
The key thing for me, I suppose, is to do work that interests you and dovetails with your personality. So it sounds as though you spent a few years trying things out, taste and try before you buy, and then you found the one thing that really suited you and you stuck with it. Is that a fair reflection, would you say, of the career of Jacques Morrell? Or how it started, anyway.
Yes, I do, and I think the doors it opened for me, I'm forever grateful for. I could, I suppose, sit here and say that I got disillusioned after 10 years and just drifted, but for me I didn't, and I'm really grateful for that, because I loved every minute of what I did. Just imagine if you had gone into policing and I had become a journalist, because journalism was something I was curious about at school. Just imagine that. Seekers of the truth, but we're working on the different opposite sides again.
There's a thought to conjure with. Yeah, I can see you doing that job. I can see you doing my old job. We'll wrap up this little fireside chat for now, but please do come back and join me, Simon Ford, and more importantly, former Major Crime Detective Jacques Morrell, for more Detectives Files true crime tales with the main man here, the governor, the man I call the governor, Jacques Morrell.